Got to start in Spain. El Clasico on the weekend. Real Madrid hosting Barcelona on Saturday. Here's what it means to the table. Atleti right now clinging to a 1-point lead over Barcelona and a 3-point lead over Real Madrid with 9 games left in the season. Julien, Laurent, Sid, Lowe with us for more. Sid, if we're going off recent form, who's the favorite between these two sides coming into this match?
It's a very good question. I suppose, let me give you a sort of a slightly sideways answer in this. The favourite is not Atletico Madrid, because of course we had them with a 10-point lead not so very long ago. They've frittered that away. They've only won 4 of the last 10. And what makes this Clasico in a way interesting is that Real Madrid and Barcelona, neither of them top, but it does feel like this is the game from which the winner would likely win the league. Now, obviously, there's no guarantees, but would likely win the league. And that is because of this collapse that Atletico Madrid have kind of gone through, but also the fact that these two teams have really accelerated. So to answer your question directly, we're talking about a Real Madrid team that I think has lost only 1 in 19 and a Barcelona team that hasn't lost in 19 in La Liga. They've picked up huge numbers of points, not always convincing until recent weeks. Barcelona, I think, playing much the better football in terms of an offensive approach, in terms of the number of goals that they're scoring, perhaps the quality of the play, but there's a reliability about Real Madrid. So it's very, very difficult to put your finger on who the favourite is. It does feel like a game where genuinely anything can happen.
Didn't hear an answer in there, at least not a direct one. Jules, no? Who do you think is the favourite?
I don't think there's one really, Sebi. I think Sid is right. I don't think there's one. You can't say Barca favourite or Real Madrid are favourite. Maybe the host, of course, and we saw that Jurgen Klopp didn't really like to play at Valdebebas, so maybe that gives you a slight advantage. I'm not sure, but other than that, both teams in great form, even if the dynamics are quite different, because on one hand, Barcelona seems to have found the tactical shape, certainly the formation, that enables them to get the best out of all the players, and collectively they certainly look very strong. For Real Madrid, it's still very much dependent on the form of Karim Benzema, the 3 midfielders who have been outstanding, and Thibaut Courtois in goal. I guess maybe Mendy at times has been very important for them this season, but it's still more those individual, more than maybe the collective strength that we've seen in Barcelona for the last 19 games. So I'm not sure if the 3-4-3 from Barcelona is suited to play against this Real Madrid side, but certainly you could see the different momentum, even if they're both in great forms.
Sid, let's dive in on the potential lineup here for Barcelona and the difficult choices for Ronald Koeman. We asked you to piece together what the lineup might look like. You don't have Antoine Griezmann in as a starter, do you?
No, I think I don't. Obviously, there's footballing reason for that. He's also just become a father for the 3rd time. Bizarrely, by the way, all 3 of his children born on exactly the same day. Well, not exactly the same day, obviously different years, but the same date. He I think probably won't start. I expect it to be Messi with Dembélé up front. I think there's another doubt as well, which is whether or not Piqué, who's in the squad, goes straight back into the side. I wouldn't expect Barcelona to do that. I think Koeman has found his formation, although the way they played against Valladolid on Monday perhaps introduced doubt into that formation for the first time in 4 or 5 weeks. And Koeman's been quite flexible in this, in a way that really surprised us, because at the start of the season he seemed very, very, very wedded to that 4-2-3-1, to that idea of accumulating lots of people in roughly the number 10 position. It didn't really convince. It seemed to be a very split midfield, and it didn't really work. Then he moved from that to 4-3-3. He then moved to 3 central defenders, and he actually seems to have been willing to change. And so I think we have a very clear idea now of probably 9 of his 11 starters in almost every game, and that one doubt for me now is whether Piqué goes in, having got fit again, and whether Griezmann plays, or whether it's an extra midfielder.
Jules, from the Griezmann perspective, if you're not starting a game like this, where does it leave you with the club and really specifically with the manager?
I think, not that he's been in great form, but I think it would be a tactical decision, because, and I agree with Sid on that point, because you can't, if you play Messi, Dembélé and Griezmann, that leaves you only with Pedri and Busquets against the 3 Real Madrid midfielders, Casemiro, Modric and Kroos, and I don't think you can afford to be 2v3 in that area of the field where the game is going to be won or lost, really. So you drop Griezmann, you bring in Frankie de Jong maybe from the back 3 into midfield, or someone else in there, but at least you 3v3, and you've got a more solid base there to actually compete with Real Madrid in midfield. If you have Griezmann up front with the other 2, I think you're unbalanced against Real Madrid team, and I don't think that would work.
Sid, the absences for Real Madrid obviously piling up. No Varane, no Ramos, no Hazard, no Carvajal in this one. But the 11 that you've put forth here is basically the same thing we saw against Liverpool midweek with maybe one change, right? Is that Valverde?
Yeah, I think Valverde, for the energy that he brings, for the ability that he has to fill in, and maybe actually in truth, we've not seen the best of him partly when he's tried to fill in for other people, tried to fit into gaps that aren't his natural role. But I think he does give him the energy that perhaps other players don't have. I think there will be a need because of playing these 3 games in 8 days to freshen it up. But I think broadly speaking, Zidane knows what he wants. Also, if you look at it from the point of view of trying to choose your team, well, the back 4 is basically the only defenders available. And bear in mind that one of them, Lucas Vázquez, isn't really a defender anyway, although he's done a brilliant job at right back. The midfield, I think it's plausible that he rests one of those 3. But those 3 together are currently, and have been for maybe 4 or 5 years, the best midfield in the world. And I think Zidane doesn't want to break that up unless he has to. So I think if we see one of them missing, then you're absolutely guaranteed that that player plays against Liverpool, and that it's a decision based on a certain degree of freshness rather than necessarily on a tactical approach to this game in particular.
How tough do you think it's a decision for Zidane, Stevie? I mean, these are players that you have to rely on. They're over 30, and you got 3 huge games. Is it asking a bit much?
It's definitely asking too much to play those 3 straight games in the trot. And I think the fact that you're going to have to play 2 of them plays into Barcelona's hands. And it's 100%. This game, in my opinion, is about controlling the middle of the park. Because if I'm Barcelona and I'm looking at that back 4 of Real Madrid, as good as Real Madrid can be going forward, it's going to be all about the middle of the park. You dominate the middle, you're going to get chances against a back 4 that is pretty average at best.
Sid, big picture, does this feel a little bit like the end of an era, perhaps the last Clasico with Sergio Ramos, Messi, even Zidane?
Yeah, of course it does. And you know, I think that one of the things that's changed, if you look at the last 3 months, where Messi's been absolutely brilliant since the turn of the year, where Barcelona have been picking up lots of points, is that's fueled an optimism. And of course, that optimism has then fed into the fact that Laporta is back as president. But it's in particular fueled an optimism that maybe Messi will change his mind, that maybe Messi stays this time. And I think there is a significant amount of optimism about that. But the fact remains that his contract is up. That risk is there and it's very real. And then the same situation is also true of Sergio Ramos. It's taken a bit longer for us to reach that point of realising that, wow, this really could be the end after 16 years. But Ramos' contract is up at the end of the season. There isn't an agreement yet with Real Madrid. The relationship between him and the president is a little bit tense. There's very much a stalemate and a standoff in terms of where they're at. And so these could be the 2 captains. And let's not forget this, the 2 captains of these 2 teams could be not there next year. And then you get Zidane, who, if you listen to Zidane, and I wonder what Jules thinks about this, listening to him and seeing it from a French perspective as well, every time he talks at the moment about his position at Real Madrid, he talks very much in the present tense. There's no sense of looking forward. There's no sense of anything other than seeing the season out in the best possible way. And I think this is a man who's very clear that he knows that his time will come, and I think he feels that it's sooner rather than later. Now, it's not to say it's any guarantee, but we could be looking at a manager and 2 captains gone by next season. It's inevitable that we start to feel that this could be the end of an era.
Jules?
I think this is a fair question on Zidane's future. The way he flirted with Alessandro Del Piero and Juventus in midweek again, which is not the first time, saying, for now I'm here, but let's see, we don't know what the future holds, was very much like, it's quite unlikely that I'll be here next season. So if Juventus are looking for someone to replace Pirlo, then that could be me. It's inevitable that one day he will manage Juventus and the French national team. That's the 2 certainties we've got with Zidane. When? We don't know, but I can pretty sure tell you that it will happen one day. So I think it's been a tough season for him. Many times this season we've spoken how much under pressure he was. Every time he turned things around, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. Like that win against Liverpool, where I thought tactically he was brilliant, but it's been a tough season once again for him, and that's the reason why he quit the first time, and I think that could be a reason why easily he could decide to step down as well at the end of the season.
We started off the show asking who was a favorite in this match. Odds makers have Barcelona away installed as favorites on Saturday in Madrid. Of course, Real winning the reverse fixture 3-1 back in October. Forget what they have to say. What about our guys? What picks did they make? All right, so Sid's got Real Madrid winning 2-0. Jules for a 2-2 draw. I like the sound of that. Stevie and Ale going 2-1 Barcelona. Sid, I'll start with you. Real Madrid to keep a clean sheet without Ramos, without Varane? Interesting.
Well, look what happened in the Liverpool game. Now, I know they did concede in that game, so there's a small flaw in this argument. But what Real Madrid did, of course, was partly protect a very inexpert and very inexperienced back four by keeping the ball. And keeping the ball with that midfield that I think is very, very secure and very, very sure of itself. Now, as I say, I think there's a chance that for fitness reasons and in terms of freshness that one of them doesn't play. I think there's a chance that it's a midfield four instead of a three. So maybe Valverde plays one of them. Maybe you get someone even like Isco in there. And I think that he might try and protect that back four with the midfield. I also think if you look at Real Madrid and you look at the way that they won the league last season, in those final 11 games in particular, you look at the way that they've picked up the big results this year, they've tended to be relatively conservative. Not entirely conservative, we're still talking about Real Madrid, we're still talking about an attacking team. But I think Zidane's awareness that, okay, we may not have the players, we may not have the BBC anymore that outscores other teams, so we need to make sure we don't concede and know that at some point a goal will come. And in this run that we were talking about earlier, where Real Madrid, I think, have lost only one in 19, a lot of those victories are really not very good. They're not very exciting, they're not very creative, they're not very attacking. Just as if you look at that run of 11 games that won them the league last year, it's very hard to remember a game where you thought, wow, Real Madrid were brilliant, if you like, in an expansive sense. But there's a security about them now that we just didn't see 2 or 3 months ago. But it's the security that we see so often. How many times has Zidane been on the edge? How many times have we said, oh, this is a big week for them, they have to win? The bad news for Real Madrid is they can't afford to lose this game. But the good news is also that they can't afford to lose this game, because when they're in that position, they have this amazing ability to get that result that they need.
Jules, you've got this one going down 2-2. We've had so many big match duds across Europe this season. Why do you think it'll be different this time?
I think Messi will score because that's what Messi does in the Clásicos. He scored as many goals on his own than the whole Real Madrid squad all put together in Clásicos. So, you know, it's inevitable. Karim Benzema is going to score because that's what Karim does in big games. He scores as well. We've seen that this season. And I just think that with that makeshift defense for Real, I think they will get exposed. And I also think that they're going to score. And I want to see Vinicius against Sergio Dest or wherever he plays. And if he can pick it up when he left it against Liverpool and be finally consistent like we've been waiting him to be for a long time now. So that's why I thought a lot of goals and a draw could be a fair result.
If we look at the odds for who's actually going to win La Liga, you'll see Real Madrid there getting the 3rd best odds. Sid, you've got Real Madrid beating Barcelona. So are you telling me Real Madrid's going to win the league then?
I really don't know. I mean, genuinely, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I started to see the slip from Atletico Madrid. I thought that Barcelona would win the league. I thought that Barcelona were the only one of the 2 teams behind Atletico Madrid that could get close enough to them. And suddenly we see Real Madrid in this position, which it's bizarre that they're in this position in a way. There have been so many weeks when it's, okay, that's it. They don't win this game, it's done. And then they find a way through. And then they find a way to survive. Look at the late equaliser against Atletico Madrid, the late equaliser against Real Sociedad, the comebacks, the amount of times that they've done this. And you just wonder if at some point that just kind of builds into a momentum. I think... and I hate to say this because it would be very nice if someone else won the league, but I think Atletico Madrid's title challenge is coming to an end, and I think it's between Real Madrid and Barcelona. And if Madrid win this, I think we'll all say they're favourites. And it's not to say they definitely win it, but I think we'll all say they're favourites if they win this game.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.